Hello again. Welcome to the news review segment on the AM show. I'm Sweetie Abochi, regardless of anything that Benjamin calls me today on the show. I'm Sweetie Abochi. Now, the AM show is sponsored by Waylead Properties, and we keep asking if you are thinking of a rewarding investment that you can engage in, then we recommend Waylead Company Limited because it's your preferred choice for such investment. Waylead Company Limited is a real estate company with several development suite credits right here in Accra. And our new development, Willow Lane, is a special one where elegance always meets tranquility in the heart of Accra. We provide quality housing at affordable costs with flexible payment options. And at Waylead Properties, we also provide 24-hour security, reliable power supply, and other social amenities to make sure your stay is a memorable one. Give us a call on these numbers, 0240-111-119 or 0504-499-999. You can also visit our website on www.waylead.org. Benjamin is here and will introduce our guest to you.
Well, joining us this morning, we have Kwame Nkrumah. He's General Secretary of the CPP. Shortly, we'll have our other guest also joining the conversation. Kwame Nkrumah, good morning.
Good morning, Benjamin. Good morning, Sweetie. It's good to be back.
Yeah, we missed you. I missed you. I don't know about Benjamin, but it's been a minute.
Oh, he missed me. I bumped into him a few times and he told me how much he had missed.
Let me say on air what I've said twice already. I love your outfit. It's lovely. Who did it again?
Well, it's a birthday gift from my Auntie Mirini.
Your Auntie Mirini?
Yes.
Okay, so are you giving her shouts or should I force the shouts out? You know, if she sees this, she'll be like, ah, wow, look. But that's a good job.
Thank you.
Good job. Any quick thoughts for us this morning?
Yes. My thoughts go to, first of all, the mother of this nation, Her Excellency Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman. And with Mother's Day coming up on Sunday, she's been on my thoughts over the past few days that we hope to have her back soon. She has a lot to offer the country, so we should remember her in our prayers for a total and speedy recovery. And secondly, also today is May 9th, and I think Ghanaians should be commended that for the past 24 years, we haven't had something of the sort that happened in 2001. And my thoughts also go out to the family of the victims. And I'm sure they've been able to get over it. And finally, also, I'd like to congratulate the Catholics on the election of the new pontiff.
Pope Leo the 14th?
Leo the 14th, yes.
Robert Francis Prevost.
I hear he's a reformer, so we look forward to a lot of reforms.
All right.
You know what's interesting for me on that angle? The fact that we've had our first Latin American or South American Pope from Argentina.
Yes.
And you know he is American Peruvian.
Peruvian, yes.
He's actually an archbishop in Peru. And at a point he spoke Spanish. It just made for this shift because for the first time we have a Pope who is both from North America and South America. And his service, it's interesting.
It will definitely pop up in the newspapers. Just to allow time for our other guests to join us, let me tell you what's on the front page of the Ghanaian Times newspaper. And on the 120-day social contracts, President Mahama said, "We've delivered." In fact, the paper says he declares. Times Needy Fund, I remember Ben talking about it some time ago. We'll bring the details later. On the Akosomo Dam spillage, need for effective control to minimize impact, according to a report. And of course, like I said, the story is here. Cardinal Prevost elected Pope Leo the 14th, first U.S. pontiff. And that tweet from Donald Trump was an interesting one. He says it's a great thing for their country. I know Ben has a lot to say on this, and when we get there, we will discuss. But let me start from an interesting story on page 3 of the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Edubuin, accused of stealing 49.1 million Ghana cedis, explains how amount was disbursed. And in fact, I've seen some tabulated accounts, something disbursements on Facebook. I do not want to say for sure if I believe those are the actual representation of how those monies were disbursed, but that's what circulates on social media right now. But let me stick to the story here. A former director of the National Signals Bureau, Kwabena Edubuin, has explained how the 49.1 million Ghana cedis he's being accused of laundering together with his wife was disbursed. And in a letter from lawyers, Mr. Edubuin attached to a memo addressed to the National Security Coordinator, he said the funds were used for various operational purposes. And the story goes on and on and on. And he explained that the funds were related to transactions between two accounts created by National Security to meet urgent operational demands. Gentlemen, I know we've all followed this story up to this point, so I'll leave it here so that we can discuss. But let me also welcome Professor Edibuin to the studio. Prof, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, and good to see you. Ben as well. And, it's been a long time.
Yes. It's good to be back.
Right.
Okay,
Any quick thoughts for us so we can quickly get into the stories?
Ben, on the streets, I still have a lot of issues with, I don't know whether foreigners or those from other countries on our streets. Gradually it's becoming a worrying situation. Those days they used to start in the morning, but now they continue the activity even in the night. When they're driving through the streets of Accra, sometimes you are not comfortable. And I don't know who is in charge and who's supposed to be responsible for. We can't sit down and wait for something to happen before we react. That's something I want to share.
Okay. So shall we start with this Edubuin story? And I still want to stay with you, Prof. Have you seen the breakdown of how the money that he's been accused of laundering has been expended?
Well, it's the first time.
Oh, the first time you're hearing the story.
Not seen
Okay, all right. What about you?
Yes, I've been following the story closely. And it's a very, very dicey issue because security operations of the state are not supposed to be in the public domain. However, with this leaked memo, it looks as if some of the disbursements cannot fall under security engagements. I mean, $500,000 to an opposition party for collation. You know, when this case started, I felt because of the security issues, it should be held in camera. However, if $500,000 was given to an opposition party, then I think it should be live. There should be a live telecast for Ghanaians to know why $500,000 was given to an opposition party. I saw 3 Nissan patrols given to some others, and all that. You know, whether the country is rich or is poor, this is taxpayers' money.
You're right.
And even if it is donor money, it should not be dissipated the way it was. Of course, innocent until proven guilty. And I cannot accuse Mr. Edubuin of anything. However, with this leaked memo, I think we have to, a Pandora's box has already been opened, and Ghanaians need to know.
Yeah.
And we want to know, especially
Once
we in the
opened
CPP, we want to know, we want to get to the bottom of it.
For me, I mean, it's about you today, not my opinion, but I just keep asking myself, is it some sort of a shakedown? Is it some sort of bargaining chip that they have to maybe strong arm the... Well, I want to leave it to you to get into it. But if you look at the breakdown, Prof, for your benefit, I just want to read out some of the things to you. Among the expenditure listed, it said 9 million and above was paid to ISC Holdings as part of payment for specialized cyber and electronic surveillance systems. And they paid 8.3 million Ghana cedis allocated to opposition party for procuring communications equipment to support election results collation, and 5 million and above allegedly paid to special aid of the president-elect for the purchase of high-end vehicles, including a Nissan Patrol, and it goes on. That's just a bit of the details out there for your reflection. I need you to comment on this.
Well, this issue started a few months ago.
Yeah.
And at a point, I was a bit worried about the particular this story. From the beginning, when it started, I thought it was just a small screen. I mean, we were not going to get anywhere with this story. But gradually gaining some momentum and substance over a period of time. This was a leaked memo?
Well, as far as I can tell, but I've seen some official pages of, should I call them government officials or former government officials, posted. So I do not know for sure where it's coming from.
So we don't know the source.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't know the source yet. But if these allegations are confirmed, then we have a problem as a country. We've been talking about revenue and in terms of corruption-related matters affecting our economy. We don't want to see some of these figures here. And I'm sure the case is at court at the moment. I don't know whether he's been granted bail. He's yet to be granted bail. I'm sure in the next few days, we'll get to the bottom of this matter. Apparently,
he was interfering with the investigation, so they took him to Yoko. They held him in custody for 7 days or so to get more information, to allow the processes to run smoothly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Benjamin, before we get to other stories.
So there's the Ghana Water Company Limited and the claims about maybe some of these sums being used to purchase vehicles, which would be interesting because that would then fall into the transitional period. Some say he's trying to justify himself. Like you said, let's go to court and get it. But I spotted an interesting submission on Facebook from a friend with some interesting comments, especially for you, Kwame Nkrumah. I wanted to shoot it by you quickly. The person says, "Dear some NDC leaders, I believe that subjecting Edubuin to a trial in the court of public opinion isn't the best. Yes, the allegations so far stink, but no court of competent jurisdiction has yet to make a determination of guilt. And the man has every right to defend himself as recognized by law. Besides, there is a legal process that is still being followed, and I trust that the state will do a fair and just job. Can we, in all fairness, allow the courts and the parties to this case to do their work?" But the responses. Kofi says, "From day one, I felt this case had been handled poorly. Why must you damage a suspect's reputation before being proven guilty by a court of competent jurisdiction?" But then, someone else says, "There is absolutely nothing wrong engaging the public on the process. In fact, it is necessary. These issues are so grievous." It goes on and on. I just want to read two more because there's a lot of interest in there. This one says, "I totally agree with you. Honestly, I don't like the approach of the AG. My sister, you are not entirely right. Yes, the case is in court and the NDC doesn't have any authority to pronounce him guilty. The NDC hasn't done that. He will be in court to counter those allegations, but the letter he wrote a few days ago should tell you he has no defense for his thievery." And the final one, I just want you to look at all of them. But is he not defending himself in public too? Woyome was tried in public. Do you remember the Woyome I'm speaking of?
Yes.
And we didn't see anything wrong with it. A song was even composed for him by the MPP. Woyome, 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 Woyome. Woyome o Gargantuan Wanchendi. Nobody saw anything wrong with condemning Woyome in public then. Why now? He will have his day in court, which isn't even controlled by the NDC. How do you put these together?
You know, an interesting case in our esteemed appeal court comes to mind. Mm-hmm. And in that case, I've forgotten who was Attorney General then, was chastised by the appeal court that, and the appeal court referred to a common law case from the UK, that the job of the prosecution is not to secure a conviction at all costs. Mm. The job of the prosecution is to do justice. However, with all due respect to my former lecturer, one of my favorite lecturers, the current Attorney General, the nature of the press conference, probably it was just meant to put information out there. However, it is very difficult to see the line between sharing facts for the consumption of the public and declaring the suspect guilty. And now that he's apparently defending himself in the public domain, I saw a video where he was walking out of court and a reporter asked him whether he's guilty. And he said he's innocent. At the end of the day, it will come out. And I also saw a letter that he wrote to his lawyers to be forwarded to the AG's department, with an attached memo detailing these disbursements. From what I have seen in the media, it was a confidential memo from the BNI, from the Ioko cells to his lawyers to be forwarded to the AG's department, which leaked into the public domain. So I don't know whether we can say that he is defending himself in public.
Maybe we should find out about the source of the leak.
Exactly.
Usually in these instances,
Exactly.
you must look at, as a lawyer, you know,
Yes.
who stands to benefit if
Yes.
this is leaked. Who has the higher likelihood of putting this out there? The same way with the CJ's petitions, when they started getting leaked.
Exactly.
Who stands to benefit?
Exactly.
Why? Who is talking about the issue?
Yes.
Then you can make some
Yes.
conjectures.
It's a very dicey issue. That is why I like what Prof said, that the case is in court. I have always said that I still have a lot of trust in our judiciary, no matter what people say. As a legal practitioner, I know that our judiciary is strong. I have trust in our judiciary. And I know that they'll handle this case very well.
Just a quick follow-up, so we can move from here. Do you think we should change our jurisprudence in terms of how we handle this? Not necessarily the law, but the how. Someone cites, for example, how Woyome and others have also been dealt with in the past, openly, publicly, you know, flayed before they were even, if there was any conviction, it came. The point being that in other jurisdictions, look at the Diddy trial.
Yes.
It's very open.
Yes.
People are whatever, but the jury will have its day and it will decide, right? Maybe we've not got to that point yet, or maybe we should start getting to that point. Do you think there's anything wrong with that? If so, how do we move away from this? That's just quickly, and let's go.
You know, I don't know whether we can move away from it. Because interestingly, somebody posted something online about a court case that one of my ancestors was involved in many years ago.
Ancestors.
Yeah, many years ago.
I get it.
And apparently a song was made out of it. So I think this is something that is ingrained probably in aspects of our culture, where as long as you are accused, you are not even convicted, as long as you are accused, you are tagged until found innocent. And you may not even be able to completely redeem your innocence. However, I believe that in order to put a stop to this, I have to say that the media will have to assist. The media will have to assist. Because, you know, a lot of what we consume is what we see in the media space. Not only the established media, but even online, Facebook, and other places. That is where these league things go. So the only way to stem this is for the courts to act on it. Because you know when a case is in court, you are limited to the extent to which you can comment on it. But
Judicate.
Yes, exactly. But it seems nowadays this is not being adhered to too much. And if we can go back to enforcing those things, then I suppose we can avoid this trial, this public trial. But these public trials, they've always been there. But of course, culture is not static; it is dynamic, and we should be able to change it. It doesn't all go well, because in the end, I don't think Woyome. I followed his civil case all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Honorable former Attorney General, who became OSP, I've forgotten his name.
The former who? Martin Amidu.
Yes. He did a lot of good work regarding the Woyome case. But I don't recall Woyome being convicted. I don't recall him being convicted or him even being sentenced. So in the end, of course, the civil case...
And that was the whole point of what that person was saying.
Exactly. So the civil case was found against him, but in terms of a criminal case, I don't recall.
But if I recall as well, Woyome did make some payments, right?
He did. He did, and some properties too were seized. Yes.
But Ben, are you not equally worried about the recent, the frequency of the leaked documents into the public domain?
Yes.
This whole year we've had a lot. I don't know the next time which document will be leaked into the public domain for discussions. And I think the trends should be watched.
Yeah.
But since you mentioned this whole year, you do know these leaks, even with petitions, it didn't start today.
Oh no, I'm even talking about
there have been leaks
over the
for about maybe 3 years now.
No,
everything leaks.
Yes.
Everything.
Yeah,
leaks,
I mean over the years.
But in the handling of this CJ case, for example, the leaks came after some things that happened, which is why I want to keep that out. But in this instance with Edubuin, that's why I'm intentionally saying, whom would it benefit for some of these things to come out? So sometimes the leaks too, we must look at them, because if we are supposed to, two parties, we are supposed to keep something secret, but I think it will benefit me, and I send it through the back door. Yeah. Can you blame the system?
So we don't know who leaks it.
That's the problem.
And who is the beneficiary of this, the leaked document? We don't know what is going to be leaked next time. Maybe my salary.
You have something to hide? All right, gentlemen, let me blaze through the Ghanaian Times newspaper, and then you can reflect on two stories each, the ones that pique your interest. NPP accuses government of wasteful expenditure in reaction to Mahama's 120 days in office. Hajj and Cathedral feuding. This is an editorial. Ghana must be more vigilant on security. Cape Coast to launch 8-year development plan, according to the MCE. We have delivered, President Mahama declares. Let me just get a bit of details out there. So President John Dramani Mahama has declared that his 120-day social contract with the Ghanaian people prior to the 2024 general election has been fulfilled. Gamanche Cancer Project Foundation launch campaign, need for effective control to minimize impact. And that is on the Akosomo Dam spillage. There's an interesting one where I want to end. Football fans not to overstay in US after World Cup. And J.D. Vance has warned foreign football fans attending next year's World Cup in the United States not to overstay their welcome unless they want to answer to the Ice Barbie. Gentlemen, which of these stories would you like to reflect on? Let me start with you, Prof.
We have delivered.
If I was a betted woman, I would have won some money from you this morning. Let's go on.
A very
you
nice,
don't think he's delivered?
A very nice caption. What can I say when a president, the whole president of the country tells us he has delivered? What else can I say?
Oh, well.
We are speechless when it comes to...
We all can be singing praises of the president or this government. It doesn't all go well for our democracy. So if you have different opinions, we'd love to hear it. Yeah,
and I'm sure a lot of other think tanks, individuals, and organizations have also rated this administration and have given their own marks. And a night before the next day, we had our president also coming to give score about his performance within 120 days. And I must indicate that social contract is just illicit and explicit contract agreement between...
Illicit?
I mean, explicit and implicit kind of agreement between a political party and then the public in exchange for votes. Basically, that's what it is. Now our democracy is growing, and that's why we are holding this administration to their own words. Give me mandate and I'll deliver 25 items
26.
within, it's 25.
Okay.
If you look at the contract, there was a typo.
Okay.
The number is supposed to be 25 and not 26.
All right.
Yeah, so I will deliver 26 promises for you. So hold me accountable for 120 days. It used to be 100. We have moved on to 120 days. I don't know where that thing came from. At least, a government is giving 4 years mandate, not 120 days. We have to be emphatic. Why do I have to judge an administration within 120 days when it has, the administration has about 4 years? But at least 120 days, we'll be able to tell the character of the administration. At least, you'll be able to tell the nature, the character of the administration. So if you want to do assessment, we are fair with assessment. But in assessing administration, you just can't come on air, not him, so any other person, by saying that I have done this, I have done that, I've done that. If you look at the terms, the words in the manifestos, words like, I will establish, I will launch, I will ban, I will do this, I will do that. I mean, in our field, if you want to assess someone, you need to have a criteria to use before you can do a proper assessment. We look at the feasibility of the promise. If you are to get funded, where are you going to get funding from? Will the funding be sustainable? You need to look at the clarity. If you say, I will do this, how many items will be in there? Which period are you going to achieve this? What are the measurements? What are the things that you're going to use to measure yourself? I'm giving a background to how you can assess a manifesto. Having said all this, let's look at the manifesto itself, a social contract. If you want to analyze all, you have a problem. What you need to do is to segment them into thematic themes or areas. For instance, if you look at governance and accountability, you can count about 8 items there. How do you rank or give a weight each, and then you take an average? If you look at economic part of the manifesto, I can count, or I counted about 9 items. Look at each and then give a grade. If you look at the next one, that could be social interventions. Count the number. I think it's about 5.
Okay.
Then look at mining and environment.
Okay, so
About
just
3 items.
briefly, I think we may be. Are you using the manifesto?
I'm basing my argument on the social contract.
The social contract.
Social contract. So I'm
Because-
breaking down the social contract into the thematic areas.
Okay, all right. Because some of
To
the points
give you a
made-
fair assessment, President says he has delivered. I'm sure that's what he asked. Has he delivered? And I'm sure if I can speak to that, that would be the best way. So if you look at that per our assessment, so if you look at the 4 thematic areas, you then can give a weight to each. But what we perused per the documents submitted, social contracts, we score this administration.
By we, you mean the NPP?
No?
You
What do you say,
mean,
MP?
I'm just clarifying.
what do you say?
Academia,
the
who's we?
UPSA?
The UPSA?
No, we have a
We.
think tank, Institute of Economic Research
Right.
Policy.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Just for clarity, so we know where you're coming
You could have said NDC.
It came first.
We scored
Putting
this.
Prof in an uncomfortable
I don't know. But there's nothing wrong if I belong to
That's
MVP.
right,
That's not a problem. You know, mining, it had the lowest mark, but at 4 thematic area, about 16%. Social intervention.
Within which time frame?
But the same 120
They want
days.
120 days.
And I was emphatic that we are assessing this as
All right.
just 120. It doesn't mean that, they've not performed well. We had about 4 years ahead of this administration. Social intervention. Our institute scored this administration in terms of weight, average, 52%, over 50%. So the strength of this administration is in social intervention, and we know the character of NDC. If you look at the economic reset agenda, the government had, I think, 43%.
Okay.
If you look at the first one, governance accountability.
I may ask you to speed it up a bit. And
Yeah,
if you have a
scored about-
document, like, that's...
Yeah, I think we
actually
gave it
speaks
to
this,
the
we can- yeah.
reporter.
Trying to
So
read for myself.
So what
Well,
was
he
the
has
overall
given-
score, just to move the
the
your
weighted
overall score
average
was
score for administration was 36 point something,
36 point
Yeah.
something.
which suggests that the reset has stalled before takeoff.
Okay.
Right. And it just tells you that the loudest voice, in fact, when the takeoff has not started, the loudest voice will often come from the leader himself.
I'll come back to you briefly on something, but Kwame Nkrumah, have your bite
Yes.
on that as well.
Well, we in the CPP have also been following it. And we think that in as much as if you look at the 25 areas, some have been completed, some are in the process of completion, some have not been tackled at all. Overall, we would give about maybe around 65%.
65.
However, 65% is not good enough because this is more like the NDC setting its own questions. If you set your own questions, you should be able to get 100%. 65%.
I like that angle.
65% when you have set your own questions is, even if 65% is a B minus, or depending on which university or which grading system, since they differ, 65% when it's your own questions is not good. It's not. It's
technically though their own questions, but bordering on areas that we've struggled with for God knows how long.
It's true. It's true.
Is it that simple?
It's true. You're right, but we should also not lose sight of the fact that if there's any failure there, I know the minority were saying there's been, but you know, government is not made up of only the ruling party. In parliament, the minority is part and all that. And the minority shouldn't forget that they've also contributed to some of the successes. The successful vetting of the low number of ministers. Without the cooperation of the minority, this wouldn't have come about. So in as much as we are grading based on the documents before us and the empirical evidence, I think, of course, I said ours is 65%. We shouldn't lose sight of the fact that how is this affecting the ordinary man on the ground? Or as Professor Kofi Kumado of the law faculty said, he said the man on the Medina bus, the ordinary man on the ground, how are these things affecting them? If we're going to look at it from that angle, then I think quite a bit of work has been done. The removal of the e-levy, as much as the percentage seemed small, it's made a big difference. From the little study I've done, there's been an increase in electronic transactions, which is very good for the growth of the economy. And there have been other areas that moves have been made, as Prof says, social intervention. The nature of our problems in Ghana is that we have a large base which is still struggling with policy. So social intervention should be our prime focus. And therefore, the government should try and speed up the removal of the COVID levy and all these other taxes which impacts on the ordinary man on the ground, which also affects them.
As we proceed, I think I've seen scores of 90, 80, 74, 72, 52 in-house. You said what, 36?
Yeah,
36. Yeah. You said what, 60?
65.
65 in there. It's interesting because sometimes you need to get into the metrics and find out what yardsticks are being used. But you made mention of the fact that it used to be 100 days, and that was just a convention, right? Just as this 120-day thing is a convention.
Yeah,
it's not written anywhere. You must do anything. But what I am thinking, though, is that can we sort of institutionalize this for responsibility so that for every administration that comes within your first 120 days, come and give us some proper report. It's not a sonar, but it's like, okay, I've taken, if you are not since I took over, it's been 4 months or even 3 months.
Yeah.
This is what we've, I think such yardsticks, metrics, whether we are saying, oh, they've done well or they've not done well, it's good. It will also help any party in power to know that, Charlie, this is really where we are going. This is how the people feel. And if it's just free, I keep saying that unless it's like taxes, if you had your way and you could avoid all taxes, you would avoid them.
Exactly.
That's human nature.
Yeah.
So the politicians, we must keep holding them till, we sort of get where we want to get. And then the things you were talking about, that how does it trickle down to the ordinary man? We must keep on unrelenting. That's the only way.
Exactly.
That does it for the Ghanaian Times newspaper. So let's move on to the news center now.
Just a point. Prof, I saw you post, you said this. I wanted to bring it in on the 120 day. Mahama's 120 days in office, promise 18. Reform Scholarship Administration. You say bill pending, your score for them 0%. You say scholarships must serve merit, not connections. Reform the system now, so opportunity depends on talent, not lies. Hey, I don't want to be in your class.
Have you been to UCC before?
Where?
UCC.
UCC. In terms of what, studying?
I'll tell you. And though they award marks. Acts also have been to UCC.
But there's myth about it. My director is in my ear trying to talk about UCC.
I'll tell you.
I've heard of that. Have you been there?
No,
Yeah.
you walk into a classroom and the lecturer tells you, today you have exams. What can you do?
Why?
It's always you are studying.
I hear they are called quizzes.
I don't have sympathies for
but they do that in different
straight students.
I remember my time. I mean,
anyway.
sometimes. But anyway.
Right. Anyway.
Let's get into your coming.
So we have here Adangabe brightens rural kids' future from whose wheelchair. I don't know the backstory, but it looks quite inspiring. You have Roxanne Adangabe, founder of Royal International School. And the story is on page 6 and 7, and it's about a 32-year-old man born with cerebral palsy who is doing his modest best to change lives through education. And I think this is quite inspiring because he is also doing his bit to move the nation forward in spite of his disability, and which we should all be doing. And we also have CD rise and how gold debt relief, 490 million injection, and a weak dollar turned the tide. You know, when I saw the mighty fall of the dollar, the term that came into my mind was forsonomics, because I think that so far so good. So far so good. He's the finance minister.
Forsonomics, huh?
He's working a lot of magic, and some said that
is it all to his credit though?
Well, some said that it's because of the tariff regime in the U.S., but others who have made a comparison with the dollar in Nigeria. Apparently, the dollar in Nigeria is rising.
I mean, it can't simply be on the back of
the tariffs.
Though the tariff dynamics between Nigeria, you know, it's not the same for every country. I don't know what exact percentage impact Nigeria is chalking, but there are some positives in the system, which some academics have referred to. We must just ensure that, look, even if it gets to 10, Charlie, it's still high.
It's true. It's true.
If you transact from time to time, you realize that it's bonkers. It's crazy.
It's true.
Even if it's at 10, it's still high, and we must do much better. That's the whole point.
Yes. And another interesting story: minority disappointed in Mahama's 120-day showing, and you have Honorable Afenyo Makin. I must commend Honorable Afenyo Makin. I mean, he's keeping the government on their toes. You know, he's really keeping the government on their toes. I mean, some may have problems. I personally have had problems with some of his approaches sometimes, but he's keeping the government on their toes. And also the minority, I think they're also doing their best to assist the government in their own way. In Parliament, they're making quite good contributions, and they're not being, of course, there are some things that you may say they're being unduly, a bit too political. But when it comes to the progressive aspects, I think they are contributing their quota. And then you have CD surge would be sustained, Dr. Forson, which is good news. But as a friend of mine said, he said whether the dollar falls or rises, if he was just using an example, if you don't plant enough tomatoes and store them and distribute them well, the prices of tomatoes will still go up. So there are certain things that are not pegged to the currency necessarily. So even as we tackle the economy based on the currency and the external factors, we should also look internally and then support our agri sector with this in Nkukon and all that. I also saw another interesting story related to the economy about how the rise in cocoa prices is making the Nigerian youth rush back to their farmlands to plant cocoa. You know, Nigeria was a strong agri economy until they found oil. And I think we shouldn't forget about cocoa. And then you also have acute furniture shortage hits on way. I hope I've pronounced it well, Honoré SHS. And I hope well wishers and the various authorities will assist them, because without furniture, you cannot study. True. And this furniture problem is not restricted to only the less deprived schools. Even in the deprived schools, even in the endowed schools, you have these problems occasionally. So I hope the authorities and well-wishers come.
Prof, comments on any of these stories that are coming from the news center?
Yeah, two stories from the minority disappointed in 120 days. I must indicate that in the coming days, we're also going to have 120 days in opposition presentation. And
now, here we go again. You said we.
Our institute.
Okay, great.
Okay, let me take the opportunity to mention our Institute of Economic Research and Public Policy. So we are going to have another presentation on 120 days in opposition for the minority.
Great.
And we'll segment the discussion between the party executives and the minority, who also will come up with their position. Then there's another story on the cedi rising. It brings confidence into the economy when you hear stories like that. And these are the stories you might be hearing. If you are having exchange rate of 10, it's not the best, per my good friend comment. We want to see 1-to-1. Can we see that? It's difficult, but at least we have made some effort. But we shouldn't also forget that the story attributed the gains as a result of three things: the position in terms of gold, the weak dollar, and then I think there was one thing that he mentioned.
Fiscal discipline?
No, 440 million from IMF injection impact. About four things have been mentioned. If you look at the first one, the weak dollar, I would say it's a global lack. Global lack. It's only Ghana benefiting from the weak dollar. Other countries are also benefiting because the weak dollar has become weak because of Trump's policies. If you talk about gold, in fact, it's a silent savior for countries like Ghana. We make a lot of revenue from when we have increases in price of gold over the period of time with benefits. I will make this submission that country should not Ghana only, should not depend on global lack. Must rather depend on homegrown policies that will help sustain, because is this temporary or for a long haul we will benefit. We don't know, we are here to see. But when we have the homegrown, and your quotes, what your friend said about planting of tomatoes and all that, we should have homegrown policy that will be able to sustain our economy. Of course, we made gains, and is it as a result of this administration or the previous, or just a global lack? We are yet to see. But clearly, it tells you the debt relief coming from external, the 490 million injection external, and then the weak dollar external. What have been the local contribution to the growth, in terms of cedi rising?
Maybe on that point, just quickly, on the gold, just restricting it to gold. I have seen some members of this administration also point to the fact that by end of year last year, December 2024, reserves at the Bank of England in terms of gold stood at 30 tons. At the time, the cedi was about 16 plus to $1. As of 2025, within this period, that output has increased by 1 ton. 1 ton. And the dollar is selling at 13 plus, in some instances 14. Would you still say that gold really was or isn't the cause, looking at the disparity and the fact that with just 1 ton difference, the cedi is faring much better by about 3 cedis, 4 cedis? What would you say?
Well, before I respond to that, we should not forget that somewhere 2024, the price of gold was hitting a record highs. of $2,400 per ton as of 2024.
But we're looking at current prices, right?
Yeah, so over the period, we've not recorded, look at the price over the period of gold. So whenever there's an upset in terms of prices, we benefit. Anytime we have a drop, it affects our revenue.
So this is just a spillover?
It might not be. I'm looking at what can help sustain this.
Okay.
Tomorrow, if you wake up and the price of gold taking a nosedive, what happens to our economy?
Does the fiscal, discipline that this administration is touting not help? Does that not contribute to the local efforts that, may be giving rise to how well the city is performing? They talk about, discipline in terms of monetary policies and how we expend our money, disbursements and all that. Does it not help at all?
If you're looking at fiscal consolidation, you're looking at how you increase your revenues and control expenditures and any other debt that you control. Within 120 days, how much have you been able to generate in terms of revenue? I don't know if you have the figure. How much have you been able to reduce in terms of expenditures, in terms of debt? So these are three areas we have to, within 120 days. And clearly, the story here has attributed the city rising to three important issues.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Right.
In any case, per Gold Board, Ghana's small-scale gold exports for the first 4 months, since we are talking of 120 days, of 2025 hit $2.7 billion. That's according to Gold Board. Let's get into other stories. Are you done?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Because of time,
Prof, we have to quickly do the daily graphic.
Yeah, daily graphic, the front page I have, government cracks down on unfair trade. It's on page 3. SI target market shops. And then I have another story here. Government pursue murder, violence suspects. President, that's 120 days. 120-day cocktail of failed promises. That's by the MPP. And then the story of the Catholic Church picks first American Pope. That is also on page 9. And there's another story on page 20. That is Ghana launches Africa's largest AI-driven security center. That is what I have here.
Would you like to do one or two very quickly?
Yeah, government cracks down on unfair trade. It's an initiative by this administration. Anytime we have unfair trade, clearly it tells you price fixing, smuggling, and other activities that often impede the growth of the small businesses. And if you extend the discussion to the economy, it affects the economy in terms of revenue. And then we are talking about counterfeit products that will not help for consumption. So if a government is taking initiative in terms of to crack down on unfair trade, I'm sure we are happy to hear some of these stories so that we don't have a lot of issues in our economy. So that is what I want to talk about on the...
Very quickly, Professor Quartey, Peter Quartey, I believe, of ISA, suggests that there should be some price regulation when it comes to some items. And once some of us hear price regulation, it sounds very... What do you think?
Well, have we done this before? Yes. Over the years.
Price control.
Yeah.
Way back.
And we can give an account of what happened. Can we go through the same? I mean, so many methodologies, so many ideologies will come when we talk about controlling our markets. Would it be the fair policy to use? Time will tell.
Time will tell. Anyway, before we take any final thoughts, sweetie, today is my wife's birthday. No, I'm not speaking for myself. I'm not speaking easy. You see how all of you are. Today is my wife's birthday. Her birthday is in August, so we still have a way to go. Mrs. Paula Odame. And he says, loads of love and kisses from Kobe, Nana K, KK, and Dr. Odame. So to you, Mrs. Paula Odame, a very, very happy birthday to you. Loads of love and kisses from Kobe, Nana K, KK, and Dr. Odame to you. All right.
Let me get a wrap of your thoughts in 30 seconds each, and then we pop off. Coming from
Well, my final thoughts, I think I've already discussed quite a bit
Yeah.
I would just want to wish you a happy Mother's Day in advance. I wish my own mother, Patricia, a happy Mother's Day. And my wife, Afrakoma, my auntie Mirini, my sisters, and all Ghanaian women everywhere a happy Mother's Day.
Thank you so much for wishing us a happy Mother's Day. This weekend promises to be exciting. Can't wait to see my mama later. Prof, that's how I call it. She's my mama.
Right. The dollar slump has given emerging market a breathing space, like Ghana. But the word is that we can't depend on global luck. We should develop and have our own grown policies to sustain the gains that we're making. Okay,
thank you. So that wraps up the news review segment on the AM show. Ben, unless you have something to say, then thank you to Professor Edibuin, and thank you to Kwame Nkrumah Botsu. Kwame Nkrumah is General Secretary of the CPP, and Professor Edibuin is Dean, Faculty of Accounting and Finance, UPSA. And Prof, we have a conversation after this. Stay with us, because coming up next, Ben, tell them.
Well, I'll be getting into Robert Francis Prevost, our new Pope, Pope Leo the 14th. In fact, let me just get this done and dusted now. So, as you can see, we've elected, like they will say when he gets onto the balcony, the announcement made before, Habemus Papam, right? So the Vatican has elected a new Pope, and he is Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost, elected as Pope Leo the 14th. And there he is. I don't know how many of you, I was somewhere getting home, and I was driving. So right when I got home, he was coming to the balcony, and I had to just check it out on CNN and catch all the footage there. And there he is, born on September 14, 1955 in Chicago, Illinois. For those of you who say Chicago, it's Chicago. Chicago, Illinois. He is 69 years old, appointed as Cardinal in September 2023. And I got some interesting comments. People were saying, but texting, for example, 20 years prior getting, that's not how it works. You know, it's quite a process. He was brought in by Pope Francis, and it's interesting because some also say that his age favored him, and the fact that he is both American Peruvian. He holds both nationalities. He was actually an arzobispo, archbishop in Peru, and that is him.
By God.
And he is the first American-born pope. He was prefect of the bishops. In fact, he was in charge of those who would determine who would become a bishop for that period. So he was a powerful man within the Vatican setup. And that is what we have for you. Just a bit of discourse on the new Pope. So there we are. Gentlemen, I see you smiling a bit.
Benjamin, thank you for bringing us details on who the new Pope is. I know that you're very passionate about this.
If I'd continued that course and become a priest, who knows? Maybe I could have.
You and I know that it's not. It's
okay. So there's something else to add, though. For those who are saying first African Pope, I even listened to the BBC and someone was saying we've had 3 African popes actually in the past from North Africa. So this would have been the 4th. Let's see. It's been 1,500 years. No African Pope.
I think they're looking for a black one. So that's it for us this morning on the News Review segment. Stay with us because our big stories come right after. Benjamin's blunt thought is also in the pipes. And of course, E-Corner with Noella Karine. We'll be right back on your screens.